And for more now on what this means for the region, we're joined by PJ Crowley. He is a former spokesman for the U.S. State Department. We want to thank you for coming in, PJ. And
Pleasure, Mike.
what can you tell us about this al-Qaeda-linked group that's taking responsibility for this attack in Lebanon?
I don't know anything about this particular brigade. However, clearly there are multiple groups affiliated with al-Qaeda that have insinuated themselves into the conflict. And it underscores that there's not one conflict going on in Syria. There are four or more. Obviously, the Assad government and the opposition, Saudi Arabia and Iran, Hezbollah and Israel, and various elements of al-Qaeda at war with all of the combatants and at war with the state sponsors that surround Syria.
Beirut, as you know, had a civil war for a lengthy period of time, had some stability. We're seeing some attacks and this is kind of an escalation. And there's always been this concern about a wider conflict. As you look through this, through your lens of having been at the State Department, what are some of the alarm bells going off?
I think one of the alarm bells is the relative stability of fragile states that are dealing with the ripple effects, from Syria, not just Lebanon, where has roughly 1 million refugees that have spilled over, that's 20% of the Lebanese population. And likewise in Jordan, you have a very significant concentration of refugees, and Jordan is not a wealthy country, and it is really suffering under that burden.
Agents from Iran years ago, we know, attacked the U.S., French, Israeli installations. It seems as though there's always a tit for tat in this sort of thing. Do you suspect that that's what we're going to see as well?
Well, that's been threatened in the aftermath of today's attack. Everyone's pointing fingers at everybody else. But one way or the other, I would think that Iran will look south to the Gulf states as being a potential target, whether they had anything to do with this particular initiative or not.
What about the timing? We've got the Geneva talks just about ready to kick off, and this happens.
Yeah, there's a coincidence there. I'm not sure the two are connected. We're now into this grind in Syria, and the objective is to try to contain this as you try to resolve this diplomatically. But obviously, when you have these spillover effects, into neighboring countries, it makes it that challenge much more difficult.
And when you talk about the difficulties, the challenges, there's been so much talk about actually getting some peace talks going. When you see something like this, it obviously does not bode well for that, does it?
Well, what it points out is, for example, if even one of your objectives were to be achieved, Assad agrees to step aside, you put together an interim government of some kind, the conflict itself may not end, because there are various combatants with separate objectives, and this could go on, and probably will go on tragically for months, if not years.
What's your greatest fear at this stage?
I think it is the spillover effect. Lebanon has, for a fragile state, been extraordinarily durable through this, but it has a weak foundation. Jordan has a weak foundation. You already have a dynamic between fighters that years ago went from Syria into Iraq. Now they're going from Iraq back into Syria. The prospect of drawing in, the Gulf states more deeply, fingers being pointed at Israel. The real issue here is the longer this goes on, can you contain those spillover effects? You have the real prospect of this spreading to a wider conflict.
I was in Beirut a while back, and it was before, of course, Syria had really mushroomed completely out of control. But even at that time, everyone seemed conflicted, and they were worried that it might spill into their country. And even a functioning government right now is not in effect there in Lebanon.
Sure. And the other side is that as people invest more into the Syrian conflict, there's no guarantee that even the weapons that go in, stay there. Obviously, from the Libyan intervention from 2 years ago, you still have spillover effects in terms of weapons that flowed into Mali, into other areas. So I think you have a conflict in the heart of the Middle East and no immediate resolution in sight.
No easy stuff. PJ Crowley, always a delight to talk to you. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Mike.